Hi everyone, it's Miss Destiny from the Fayette County Public Library here with another craft this week for our Crafty Corner. And what we are going to be doing today is we are going to make a 3D faced farmer boy. So when you come to the library and pick up your craft kit, what you're going to find in it is 2 large strips of yellow paper. You'll either find a dark blue strip or a light blue strip for our hat. So if you look, in this case, this one is the opposite, so I'm going to have a dark blue hat with a light strip instead of the light blue hat with a dark strip. You'll have a face colored piece of paper, your dark blue or light blue strip of paper for your hat, and then our background color that we're going to be placing our head on. And then finally, you'll have 2 wiggly eyes for your boy's face. So let's dive right in and go ahead and get started. So what we are going to start with is we are going to take our flesh colored piece of paper, and I am actually going to just simply cut a little bit of it off. So we don't need this entire piece of paper, otherwise it's going to cover the whole background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut about 1/3 of it off, and just cut right across, so that we will have our face. And then I'm going to take this, and I'm actually going to cut it in half. The reason we're doing this is it is going to create our neck, and I'm also going to use this to create our ears. So if you take this piece, one of the 2 pieces that you cut in half, we're going to cut that in half as well. And we are going to create the shape of our ears. So we want both ears to be identical. We want them to be the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our 2 pieces of paper, lay them flat, and I'm going to draw the shape of an ear. So if you take your marker and you look at my example of my ear, it has a big loop and then a little loop, just like our ears if you look in the mirror. So we're going to take this edge right here, we're going to leave that flat, and we're going to make a big loop. And when we almost get to the bottom, we're going to stop. And then we're going to make a little loop. And then we're going to take our scissors and we're going to cut out our ears. And it looks like these are going to be a little tiny. We're going to set our ears aside. And we're also going to set our other strip of paper aside for just a moment after we take a little bit more off. So we don't need it, his neck doesn't need to be super long. So we'll just take our scissors and cut a little bit of that off. And we're going to set it aside along with our ears. And now what we're going to do is we're going to get started on his face. So we're going to take our face colored piece of paper, and I'm actually, to create this 3D look that he has, I'm going to take both sides and I'm going to fold them down. So take it and rub along the edge. We want to keep it folded nice and flat. And then we're going to do the same thing with our other side. Take it and fold it nice and flat. So if you flip it over, what you'll notice is that that head, once we go to glue it down, is going to pop right up. So we're going to take that and we're going to go ahead and we're going to set that aside so that we can do his hair. So if you look at this head right here and you look at this right here, I actually have 2 layers. That's why we have 2 pieces of paper. We have 2 layers for his hair. So what we are going to do is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut vertically, which is up and down, along my paper. So you take your scissors and you cut, leaving a little bit of space at the top. You don't want to cut all the way up, otherwise it's going to cut off. And just keep going across the whole piece, being sure not to cut off the top. And this is going to create that hair effect once we glue it down. And you can also decide as you're cutting if you want your boy's hair to be really long, if you want it to be a little bit shorter. Now, when you fold it over, you'll see here in just a minute, the shorter it is, the harder it is to actually get it to settle. It may stick out. He may look a little bit crazy and like he needs to brush his hair. So I'm going to start by keeping the hair nice and long, and then once I start to glue it down, I can decide if I want to cut his hair shorter. Now by doing this, once it glues, it's going to help with that 3D effect because the pieces of paper layering on top of each other are going to stick out just a little bit. All right, so what you're going to see is I'm going to take my hair, and if I fold it along, he's going to have a lot of hair. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take my head and I'm going to flip it over and along the line so you can see where my hair is. Move the example. If you look at the hair from upside down, you'll see where I did not cut, and I'm going to take that hair like this, and I'm going to take the part that I did not cut, and I'm actually going to glue it down along the whole entirety of my head. So take your glue stick, and from end to end, we're going to rub the glue stick along the hairline. You don't need a lot of glue. Just press firmly, rub it along, and then take it, and we will fold it along our hairline. Oop. And if a little bit falls off, that's okay. That's why we have glue. And take it back over, and just keep pressing so that that glue will stay. And this is where we get to decide how long we want the hair to be. Just take it and fold it over. Fold it over. So where we had folded on the head before, we're going to just follow that line and recreate our fold. Like that. And before we finish gluing it down, I want to add my second layer of hair. And if the glue's not wanting to stay from the glue stick, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take out my white glue just because it's being a little bit stubborn. And this holds a little bit firmer. I'm just going to take my glue and I'm going to run it along the edges like so. And that should hold it since our stick glue was not wanting to. Just press firm along the line that you had created. Let it sit there for a second. And it held. I'm going to take my second piece of paper and I'm going to go ahead and to create the sideburns that I have on my example, I'm just going to cut 2 squares off. And I'm going to do the same thing. You can actually save some time by taking both pieces and laying them flat on top of each other and just cutting your hair the exact same way. Don't go all the way up to the top. We don't want to cut the hair off. And I'm going to take this with my glue. And I'm just going to drizzle it along. I'm going to take it up under that top layer of hair. I'm going to press it flat. So it looks just like that. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to drizzle my glue. And I'm going to take it up and press it flat. And at this point, I'm going to take my boy and I'm going to turn him sideways. And because I want him to have a little bit longer of a sideburn than I do across, I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to give him a little bit of a haircut. And if you don't want to give him a haircut, that's okay too. But I think I'd like to. Just going to sprinkle all the extra hair off. And then finally what I'm going to do to create my face, I'm going to go ahead, flip him back over on my folds, fold it flat again. And I'm going to take my glue again, and I'm actually going to drizzle my glue all the way along the line of his head where I've been having this fold on both sides. We're going to take him, careful not to get glue all over you, and we're just going to flip him down. And you can just press along the edges right here, and that will hold his head in place. All right, so now that we have his head down, what we can do is we can take our ears that we had set aside, and I'm going to go back with the glue stick. I'm going to flip the ear over, put a little bit of glue, and I'm going to glue his ears right behind the fold of his head. So to show you on this side, you add your glue stick, and if you're looking at your 3D boy from the side of the paper, from where that fold is, he actually sticks up a little bit, and we're just going to take our ear, put it behind that fold, and lay it flat. So if you're looking at him from the front, he will look like that. Next, what we're going to do is we have our 2 pieces of paper we set aside that we had cut apart. The long one's going to be for his neck, and we're going to set this aside, and that will be for his nose. So what I'm going to do is when I take this and when I glue it, I'm going to insert it into the space created by the head. I'm going to take my glue stick and cover all of my edges. And just a little line through the middle so it doesn't pop up. And then I'm actually just going to take it and I'm going to insert it into that hole. And I'm going to press it down firmly so that we have his neck. And next what I'm going to do is I'm going to create his nose. So if you look at his nose on the example, you can see that it does stick up. It is 3D. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my strip and I'm going to cut it about 1 inch wide. I'm going to take that strip right there. And to create the nose, what you're going to do is you're going to take the bottom and you're going to fold it up. And when you look at it from the side, it's going to create that little raindrop shape. So take your glue and put a dollop of glue at the top. And then just take your bottom and press. You don't want to glue the whole thing, otherwise the nose isn't going to stick up properly. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the glue stick again, add a little bit more glue if it's wanting to pop apart. We're going to take our glue stick on the face, right where the nose would be, make a little dollop, and we're going to press it down. Just hold it there for just a second so that it doesn't pop up. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my glue stick and the eyes, flip my wiggle eyes over, and I'm going to cover them with glue, and I'm going to place them on his face. His face is almost done. The last step you can do is you can just give him his mouth before we start his hat. And what I'm going to do is I want him to smile. And I'm going to give him his little bubble cheeks. So I'm just going to do a little half circle on each side. And I'm going to take a smile. And our last step is we're going to create our hat. So I'm just going to take my boy and I'm going to set him aside for just a moment. And I'm going to make my hat. So to do that, what I'm going to do is if you look at my hat here, along the brim, we're going to be placing that so you can lay it right here. I'm going to take my marker and I'm going to draw my shape. So to make this simple, what we're going to do is we're going to fold this in half. And I'm going to leave a line about 1 inch right here. So I'm going to take about that much from here to here, and I'm going to draw a line. And I'm going to go almost all the way across my paper. And then I'm going to stop. And then on that line, I'm going to draw a half circle. So if you look at it like that, and then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut along my lines. And when I open it up, I'm going to have my hat. I don't need it to be quite that long, so I'm just going to take those edges and I'm going to cut just a little snip off. I'm going to bring my boy back down here. And I'm going to be able to glue his hat on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over. And just like everything else, I'm going to take my glue stick along the edges. Through the middle. I'm going to pat it down firmly. And to finish off his hat, I'm going to take this and I'm going to see, okay, it's too long. So I'm just going to decide how long I want it from end to end, and then I'm going to cut it. We'll take our glue stick and then glue it down. All right, and there we have it. I hope you guys enjoyed this craft, and I hope to see you again next week for another episode of our Crafty Corner.